Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Look Good, Move Well podcast. And today we're talking flexible dieting. Mm-hmm. But before we get into flexible dieting, we have a quick banter topic that Satya is ready to unleash. And there you go.
That's right. The question of the day is, what are you currently nerding out on or obsessed by?
You clearly have an answer for this, so go ahead. You jump in. Give me a moment to think about it, but I want to hear yours.
Artificial intelligence, baby. I am super obsessed with all things ChatGPT. I've subscribed to all the newsletters. I'm in there like all the time. Obviously upgraded to Pro. I mean, that thing is incredible. So
that's so cool.
I'm just taking over everything with AI.
That's lovely.
Yes.
This is funny to me because I think knowing you for the time that I've known you, if I could have just said like, what would just be like the best thing to ever happen in this world for Satya? And it would be like, develop a team of robots that could do all the things that she knows how to do really well and just replicate her rather than her having to go out and find somebody to replicate herself. Yeah. And then guess what? Lo and behold, we have
technology
robots that are
is so magical.
The team of robots.
They do my bidding. It's fantastic.
Yeah, Nate used a robot to help us get started with our help us with our YouTube episode coming out this weekend. And we had, which is on this topic actually, flexible dieting, but it was, I rattled off 3 meal plans, a clean eating meal plan, if it fits your macros meal plan, and a flexible dieting meal plan, all of which were same calories, same macros, everything, but just different types of foods on the plate. And Nate was able to generate images of meals, real images of food through something like, we didn't have to go and take photographs of anything. It was just like, I want to see scrambled eggs and cottage cheese in a bowl. Boom. Look at that. Done. I want to see like, what was it? It was a bowl of Greek yogurt with berries and some cinnamon toast crunch on the top. It's like, there it is. I was like, whoa, that's real. That's what it is. And it was beautiful.
This is the most amazing thing about AI is that I have had all these ideas for so long of things that I want to create, products or systems or applications. And I've just been limited by my own technical knowledge. But because AI can code and help me make things, it's just totally expanded the possibilities of what I'm able to accomplish. So yeah, I'm so pumped.
I did subscribe to an AI, Instagram channel, basically like all things AI.
Yeah.
And I watched a few videos and I've been very much in the camp of like, this is exciting. This is like new. We're going to like learn. And this is a big leap forward in a lot of things. And I've not been so much in like the fear, category. Yeah. I was watching something and it kind of got me like, I was like, whoa, like that's frightening.
Oh yeah,
where that might head.
Yeah, it for sure can kill us all.
Well, not just that. It was more like seeing something that was like, oh, that's going to make me not relevant. Like really, which is, it was. But anyhow, I'm still more in the camp of excitement and
we have to adapt to our new reality.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I don't know. I'm geeking out on cereal these days. That's pretty much it.
We just had a whole conversation about cereal in the kitchen.
We were just down in the kitchen having a little lunch and talking about cereal. About what? I don't know. It's been like a month now. Mm-hmm. I went over to my cousin's house for dinner. And
cereal for dinner.
They made us a great dinner. It was like steak and all the things we love, potatoes, and they made these amazing like squashed and crisp potatoes. Like it was
I like that.
They made a great dinner. And then like my niece, their daughter, like after dinner, she just like goes in, grabs a bowl grabs a box of cereal and pours herself a box of cereal and just like, or a bowl of cereal. She's eating cereal, and I was like, damn, like. I was like looking around and no judgment. I was just like, damn, you guys got a lot of different of like the fun cereals. Like, these are not like this isn't like the healthy stuff. This is like the fun stuff. And I was like, and I have like this like, you know, childhood, like nostalgic, you know, relationship with like Captain Crunch Berry cereal. And they didn't have Crunch Berries, but they had, what did they have? They had something that I was like, oh, I love that too. And I was just like, I grabbed a handful and had it. And I was, at that moment, I was like, I need to start having cereal again. Like,
this needs to be in my life.
I need to get some cereal. So, which gave way to kind of the topic of the day. It was like this idea of flexible dieting, or if it fits your macros. And I was like, you know, I can have cereal every day and it would be okay. Like, because
it would.
I know the science behind this is if I get my protein, if I generally have a diet that is mostly sufficient in whole foods that provides me the micronutrients and the nutrients I need, I'm getting the right amount of calories each day for my output, then, you know, having something like that, it totally fits within a sustainable approach for me. Where it becomes hard is like, do I have the self-control to just have the one bowl of cereal that fits my meal plan? Or am I going to do my college thing where I went back for refills at the Fruit Loops station in the dorm, you know, 4 times in every single breakfast, and was like, oh, that's why I put on the freshman 15 or whatever. So anyway, it was like, okay, I'm just going to like get all the cereals that I love and I've missed as you know, from when I was a kid, and I'm just going to have them. And then they were really tasty and delicious, but actually I don't think I digest those very well. So maybe this one has fewer ingredients, but still gives me the crunch and the flavor and that feeling, but it actually feels better going down and coming out. And so yeah, I've been in the cereal world. And you know, the sad thing about cereal is that this is like, you know, a staple food for somebody, and that's what they're making as like, this is their breakfast. And I'm like, well, that's not what we're talking about here, because the flexibility to have cereal for breakfast comes on the heels of like, do you get enough protein each day? Do you know how to, you know, put the necessary ingredients in your body to feel your best, train, perform, function, have cognitive awareness, do all the right things? And, you know, cereal as a foundation is not getting people there most of the time, but can cereal fit into a balanced diet? Sure. So anyway, I've been on a cereal kick.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good segue into our flexible dieting conversation.
Yep.
Yeah. So where do you want to start with this?
Well, let's just define a few terms, because we're going to talk about clean eating. We're going to talk about if it fits your macros, and we're going to talk about flexible dieting.
Okay.
And so I think it's important to note that flexible dieting is, I don't know if it's trademarked or copyrighted, but it's a title of a book and kind of a diet culture movement that was started by Alan Aragon. So there's a book out there, Flexible Dieting. I don't know what the subtitle of that book is, but it's a fantastic book. It came out in the last year. If you're interested in learning more about this topic after you listen today, go and grab that book. I read it sometime last year, and I think it was written. I think he said he wrote it with the fitness professional in mind, to give the fitness professional a really good lay of the current landscape in diet research, nutritional research. He has been very instrumental in a lot of that research, but definitely in the analysis of the research, the relevant research that's out there, to help you understand protein, carbs, fats, different meal frequency protocols, and then just generally, like, how do you understand research? How do you look at research and make sense of it? And I think it's written in a way that even somebody who's not a fitness professional could digest and understand and make use of. So
yeah,
shout out for that.
I really love his Instagram account, because he's always just cutting through all of the latest fads and hype, and he'll just bring up the research and give a really straightforward analysis that's not biased, and just make sense of things. Yep.
Yeah. So that's maybe the first place to start. Then the next place to start is, clean eating. This is sort of where maybe I spent much of my 20s is generally, let's just say, somebody who gets really attached to the idea of the quality of the food that they're eating. If I just eat clean, everything magically is going to become better. And clean foods are generally like foods that are whole, not foods with lists of ingredients. So unprocessed, whole foods, minimal to no added sugar, meat, veggies, things like that, fruit. Some people might go as far as to say, hey, clean eating means you don't put in processed grains. So, take out your breads, take out your pastas. Some people would say, hey, you got to be gluten-free if you're going to be in the clean eating category. Some people might remove dairy. Maybe that's too processed. There's not like a textbook definition. It's sort of a general idea.
Sure.
But beyond the general idea of what foods go into it, there's this belief that if I just eat clean, I'm going to win the diet game. And that is true in some instances for people. But I think it's also generally agreed upon that clean eating, because it doesn't have processed foods, junk foods, sugars, things like that, it's relatively restrictive. It's like, oh, you're like, you're one of those like dieters. Like you don't eat any desserts, or you won't like do this, or you won't ever have a bowl of cereal, or you won't, come on, live a little. It's like, no, I'm clean, and it's kind of a restrictive thing. Mm-hmm. So that's the second layer of groundwork. And then the third layer of groundwork is this notion of if it fits your macros. And it was kind of bred out of I think Alan Aragon, from my understanding of the historical relevance of this in reference to it, is that once upon a time, it was like, he's introducing this concept of like, hey, you can be flexible with your diet and you can still reach your goals. You can have some of these, junk foods and treat foods. They can make up a percentage of your diet and you can still, and in many cases, see better results than people that go ultra clean and restrictive. Now, some people in that group were like, oh, well, if it fits into my dietary needs, then it doesn't matter what I eat. It's just, as long as I hit my correct macronutrients, I'm fine. And this is like what became known as the IIFYM. If it fits your macros, I will eat any food processed, the more processed, the better. And it seems like in these circles,
yeah.
But it's like, I just need to get 150 grams of protein. I need to get 250 grams of carbs, and I need to get 75 grams of fat. Cool. I'm having a donut in the morning. I'm with a whey protein shake.
Yeah.
I'm having a little bit of pizza with a side of chicken breast. And then for dinner, I'm having, ice cream and popcorn, and then another, whey protein shake to get my rest of my protein, kind of thing. And there's no real talk about quality. It's not restrictive in any way. It's just like anything goes.
Yeah.
And so what's the benefit and the value of any of these approaches? You'll hear some people be like, oh my gosh, eating donuts and eating that and eating it like that if it fits your macros way is like, that's horrible for your health. And I think I was in that camp as a really, dedicated clean eater for a decade. It was like, oh my gosh, you couldn't possibly do that. It's going to make you feel terrible. It's going to make your energy tank. It's going to blah, blah, blah. It's like, but there are people over here who are having success doing it. They're seeing their performance improve. They're seeing their body composition get better. They're, if they were starting out at like really overweight and unhealthy, and they got onto a consistent calorie macronutrient approach, regardless of what they're eating, they lose a bunch of weight doing it. This is possible. They're getting healthier. So it's like, okay, you can't just say that that's bad, like, and put a blanket statement on it, because people are having success with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the groundwork. And we got a lot of questions that, have come in about this, but
yeah.
What do you think are some of the biggest questions that need more clarification?
Well, one thing that comes up is that when I think about the if it fits your macros approach, I associate that with a mentality of gaming the system a little bit, where it's like, okay, I'm going to see how many cheat foods or naughty foods or tasty foods I can cram into this amount of macros and calories that I need to hit.
Yeah.
And so it ends up with Chick-fil-A and protein bars and just whatever you can put together to, it matched up. And I feel like there's this narrative where it comes back to, well, quality doesn't really matter because if I hit these macros, I'm going to lose weight or I'm going to achieve my body composition goals. So I just think it's worth highlighting where quality matters, why quality matters here.
Great. Well, quality is, people throw around quality just like they throw around the word functional and fitness. It's like, well, what does that even mean? Like, what makes it quality or what makes it functional? So some of the things that get associated with quality are, people will say, oh, clean foods are more higher quality because they're less processed, because they're more whole ingredients. Okay, so that's generally making something higher quality. But let's go a step further. Okay, well, what about those foods is of higher quality? It's the amount of nutrients in a food relative to the amount of calories that you have. So you take 20 different foods and you portion out 100 calories of each food. So you could take a Reese's peanut butter cup, a little, like one cup is maybe 100 calories or 70. I don't know. You figure out what 100 calories of Reese's peanut butter cups are, and you put that next to a bowl of broccoli, 100 calories of broccoli. You put that next to 100 calories of 100 calories of raw liver. You put that next to 100 calories of Captain Crunch cereal or whatever, all these different foods. And you look at, all right, that's the same amount of energy. Obviously, the bowl of broccoli is going to be like huge and the Reese's peanut butter cup is going to be tiny. But then you would say, okay, how many vitamins, minerals, carbs, fat, protein, like what's in all of these things? Give me the breakdown of all the macros and the micronutrients. Okay. And obviously one macronutrient we care about getting enough of is protein. So you look at all those like, well, what's going to deliver me the most protein? Okay. That might move it up on the quality spectrum. Mm-hmm. And then of protein, which is the most easy to digest and bioavailable. Okay. That maybe moves it up the quality spectrum. But then the micronutrients is like, that's the big one. Because a Reese's peanut butter cup, I haven't done the breakdown on this, the micronutrient breakdown on it, but it's sugar, a little bit of peanut butter, a little bit of chocolate, and not a lot of dense nutrients in there. Like you don't have a lot of vitamins, you don't have a lot of minerals, you don't have a lot of those things that we need. They're not the most essential things for life, right? Because you get a broad spectrum of them if you're eating a balanced diet. Macronutrients are pretty important to get people started towards their goals. But at some point, these micronutrients become important to how our bodies function. So for 100 calories of Reese's peanut butter cups, we don't get a lot of nutrients. But 100 calories of broccoli, we might get a lot of nutrients. And 100 calories of liver, we get an immense amount of nutrients. So it's like the higher the quality of the food, the more nutrients it delivers to your body. Also, the calorie to volume ratio is also a measure of just quality, because if you are eating a diet of, broccoli, more of the broccoli type foods, they're going to fill you up. They're going to help you maintain your weight better. They're going to help you manage your calorie intake. Whereas 100 calories of Reese's peanut butter cups, that might not fill you up as much. It might not store, it might not satiate your hunger, as well. So these are all ways to kind of define the quality of foods. Mm-hmm. And really, in my opinion, yes, the quality of foods matters from a micronutrient perspective. Like we want to make sure you got all your vitamins, minerals, and electrolytes and things like that. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of people that are eating clean out there that are very deficient in nutrients. Yeah. Because their metabolism is all jacked up because they have terrible gut health and they're drinking booze or whatever. And like, they're not absorbing their nutrients. Like I'm a pretty healthy, clean eating kind of guy. And I do blood tests every 6 months. I have nutrient deficiencies. I have to supplement I take supplements to supplement nutrient deficiencies that I have. And that's from eating a pretty damn good diet. So, is that the most important factor when it comes to like health and vitality? It's like you could be as clean as you want and you could still be missing out on micronutrients. Mm-hmm. So I don't love that as an argument to be like, you got to be in the clean eating camp to get your micronutrients. It's like, figure out the best way for you to get your micronutrients and feel balanced in your life. I think what's probably the most important thing here that we are talking about is what feels like it gives somebody sustainability in their diet, provides them a diet that they can repeat and manage their energy intake, their calories, and have enough entertainment and enjoyment from to really feel fulfilled by this very valuable part of life.
Yeah.
Which is food.
Yeah.
And can you do that in any one of these categories? Sure. Like, take the example of the person you said who's doing If It Fits Your Macros, who's like constantly trying to game the system and figure it out and like do the math and like, how do I squeeze this in? How do I squeeze that in? Is that sustainable for them? Do they love that? Is that working for them? I did a couple days of like If It Fits Your Macros, like just trying to eat a bunch of stuff and I was like, man, this is kind of like a headache to just try and figure this out.
It's like a Tetris puzzle.
Yeah. I'm like scanning barcodes. I'm like, well, what is this? And what's that? It's like, it's a lot simpler for me to just generally eat the same basic, simple 5-ingredient meals most of the time. And then periodically be like, okay, I like saved about 80 grams of carbs and 20 grams of fat for the end of my day. Guess what? I get to have a bowl of popcorn that I love because I know that's the thing I go to. Yeah. Right. That worked for me, but to say that somebody who's actually hitting their macros, getting enough protein and having the donuts and the other things, like they can't just eat crap all day. Like you can't go to Krispy Kreme and Jack in the Box and, Chick-fil-A and like nail your protein without going over on carbs and fat. Mm-hmm. You have to be smart. You have to be attuned and aware. And in that instance, I'd be like, cool, well, that person's probably having some protein shakes or some lean protein options. They're filling in with those other foods. If they're actually tracking their calories and not just like, I eat whatever I want, it's like, then they're probably making progress towards their goals. The question of sustainability and whether that works is only going to be answered by that person over weeks and months and years. And it's like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And there's a point maybe where that person gets malnourished, where they're like, hey, they really have low levels of certain micronutrients because they've just been eating the junk foods most of the time. And so this is where it's like, okay, maybe that's an extreme case. If It Fits Your Macros is extreme to one side, clean eating is maybe extreme and restrictive to the other side of the spectrum. Are there people that do well in either of those camps? Sure. Do the majority of people do well in those camps? No. Mm-hmm. The majority of people do well somewhere in the middle. And is it right in the middle where it's 50-50? Or is it the 80% clean, 20%, junk and kind of entertainment foods? Is it 90-10? That is really more going to be determined for each person. And that's really what I believe Alan Aragon's point is. It's like flexible dieting creates a sort of like a checklist of like, these are the must-dos. You got to hit your protein. You got to stay within a reasonable amount of your calorie range. You can kind of choose how much fat or how much carb you want to break each of that out in, like high carb, high fat, doesn't matter, right, as long as you're hitting the same calories. Generally, you want to have the majority of your food, be it 51% or 90%, be whole ingredient, nourishing foods that have high amounts of bioavailable nutrients available to you. And then the rest, you should plan for and maintain a certain amount of entertainment foods that works for you. Maybe you're the person that likes to have it once a week and you plan for that. Maybe you're the person that likes to have a little bit each day and that helps you stay more on track. But to say, I'm going to remove that and never going to have junk food. I'm never going to have the entertaining things that are out there that are in our face. It's almost, in the vast majority of cases, a recipe for failure, which then leads down to a very bad psychological spiral that many people go down, which is like, I blew the diet. I couldn't stay clean forever.
Yeah,
I'm
all or nothing.
Yeah, I'm a shitty person, and therefore I'm going to just go whole hog and not even go to if it fits your macros. I'm just going to go off the rails, not track anything. I'm going to overeat. I'm going to binge. I'm going to do all these, sort of self-punishing behaviors just because I know I can't do it the right way. And it's like, we went too far to the clean side of the spectrum, the restrictive side of the spectrum, where you felt like you had no wiggle room. You made a quote unquote slip up, which is not a slip up because it's just inevitable that it's going to happen to anybody. And then you told yourself, I can't do it and I'm no good and I'm just going to hit the F it button.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to bring up the psychological pros and cons of each approach, and you just hit on a lot there. I feel like from a mental standpoint, there is such a danger zone on the if it fits your macros side, because you are more in the camp of, I'm having the types of foods most likely that tend to cause more cravings for more of the same.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's, the industrial food revolution of processing foods and, using agriculture to like make surpluses of certain, commodity crops and then turning those commodity crops into like foods that, are marketed as healthy or really hyper palatable or really, delicious. Like, this has led to foods that many people, for good reason, don't have a lot of self-control with. It's like they're meant to taste good. They pack a lot of calories into a small volume of food. They basically have these feedback loops that make you tend to want to eat more of them or crave more of them. They're not inherently satiating. So they're slippery slope foods for a lot of people. Like, I don't know how to have just one donut. I only know how to have like 5 or, but that again is not to say that 100% of people are like that. You go into certain cultures, you watch certain people and they're just like, it's dessert time and they just have like half a piece of cake and they're like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Cause I'm going to have half a bite of cake tomorrow or half a piece of cake tomorrow and the next day. And they just are great at controlling that. Right. And they might be able to do that at every single meal and be fine. And so it's really, it's like out of 100 people, probably 5 people might fall into that camp and be able to do that.
Yeah.
95 of them not going to work. And so this is, again, it's just like, you got to figure out what is the plan and the process that works for you. And that's where I think the if it fits your macros going to really just overload on some of the junk food can be problematic. But the same thing could be said for clean eating.
Yes.
Hey, if you're super restrictive, you don't ever have a cheat day, you don't ever do any, it's like 5 out of 100 people can do that. The other 95 are going to have some slip up at some point and they're going to be like, man, that didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm. And have a self-punishing mentality around food and not be able to go out to dinner with friends or all those things.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And I would say that, yeah, I think I spent a lot of time in that, the clean eating camp, where tried clean eating at different parts of my life and didn't have any flexibility, and inevitably I would fail or slip up, and it always led me down a bad psychological path. And then through the years of CrossFit and competing at a high level and just pumping out a ton of energy, I would generally eat clean all the time. But then on the days where I knew I needed to like get some more energy and, I'd feel totally comfortable like being flexible because I knew I was just going to be burning more of it off. But that was a very, specific window of time where, I was training so much, I was moving so much that I almost kind of felt like it gave me permission to like, have these slip ups or cheats or what you would call a flexible, aspect of my diet. So I didn't really have to revisit that until after my competitive CrossFit career, where I was like, okay, like, what's the balance that works best for me?
Yeah. And I think the other thing is just to think about what can be repeated for the longest time without running into the wall of, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to also say that it is important to really approach this from the perspective of what feels right for me. And if you've been in the camp of somebody like myself who was very clean eating and not giving yourself an opportunity to be flexible, and you're like, okay, I want to go experiment with being flexible. The thing that has to be consistent through all of this is that do not compare clean eating to a flexible approach if you're not also being mindful of tracking your intake.
Right.
Okay. This is like, I was low carb for a long time and I was doing good, but then I started to eat more carbs and I got fat. Or I started to eat more carbs and I puffed up.
Yeah.
It was like, is that because of the carbs, or is it because now you just introduced carbs back into your life and you ate everything else you were eating before, but just more carbs, which is another way of saying you just increased your calories a lot.
Yeah.
So don't blame it on the carbs, or it's easy to just identify the carbs are the enemy here. And this can be the case of somebody who's like, okay, Marcus is saying that have a certain small quota of junk food that I have each week, and that's totally fine. It's like, well, yeah, if you ate clean eating 2,000 calories a day every day, and then for the next month you added in 200 calories a day of junk food on top of that, guess what? You just increased your calories, and so you might see your body change.
Right.
Now, what this means is find 200 calories in your clean eating day and don't eat them. That could be like roasted broccoli with olive oil on it. Like a bowl of roasted broccoli with a bunch of olive oil could be 200 calories. So instead of that, you're opting to not do that and go air pop some popcorn, 200 calories of that, which might be a similar size bowl. That, popcorn is not as quote unquote clean as broccoli and olive oil, but you just traded equal calories, and now you're getting to have this salty, popcorn snack that you like every day, every couple days. You didn't increase your calories. You didn't decrease your calories. You just stayed the same. That's what flexible dieting is. That's what you want to equate. And I think that is the thing that people miss so much is, I don't want to track food. I don't want to weigh and measure. I don't want to do this, but I want to be able to try new things. And then they try something and it fails, and they're like, it was that food. I can't ever do that.
Yeah.
And I saw a really good post the other day. It was like, people don't want to weigh and measure. It's too hard. It's too tedious. It's too restrictive. It's too, I don't know, you put the label to it. Guess what? Weighing and measuring and tracking might just be the thing that gives you the freedom to eat the foods that you love. Because now holy shit, I can actually have the piece of pizza because I know it fits my plan. You don't know that unless you've actually gone through that process.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I can have a little Captain Crunch cereal today.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the extra cup of rice at lunch with my chicken. I saved that. I didn't have that cup of rice so that when I have dinner tonight, I can have a little side bowl, a small side bowl of the Captain Crunch.
That's right.
And that's going to work for me.
Yeah. And one other point is that I've seen a lot of nutrition intakes come in to our company over the years. And so many people say, I eat clean. And that looks so wildly different from person to person.
Yeah.
So yeah, being able to have some sort of framework around what is that exactly?
Yes. You can get chubby eating clean. Case in point, 23-year-old Marcus living at home with his parents, going through a rough time in life. eating clean foods. But every night, I was eating a clean jar of peanut butter every night. A very clean, organic.
It was organic.
No sugar added.
Just peanuts.
Jar of peanuts and butter. No, cheap peanut butter. And I was not my current self at that point in my life. Anyhow, to all you clean eaters out there, I love you. And just know that there's another way. Okay. If you have questions, of course, you know what to do. Slide into the DMs at Satya Khan, at Marcus Philly. Send us your questions about this episode or future topics you'd like to hear about, and share the podcast with a friend. We'd love to get this out there. And if you want to go give us a review, we always appreciate 5-star reviews so that more people can hear about the Look Good, Move Well movement.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Bye.